Hi, Malcolm. Thanks a lot for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, we're going to be talking about your near death experience and related events. So, could you tell us how your near death experience started?
Basically, I would like to start with how my my spirit was my life and how it was leading me, but I was not listening to the guidance, and I was eventually being led to destruction and an inevitable death that I'll come to towards the end. But I I basically was living a mindless life, like I was a non-player character in this game that we call life, and I didn't know that I had control. I had no self control. I was destructive, and I was very toxic, and I was very abusive. I didn't know how to love or appreciate. I didn't know how to build relationships or respect for one another. I had no idea. My parents divorced when I was 1 years old, and a lot of my life has impacted me that has led to my near death experience and the reason why I died. So I was living this kind of life for as long as you can imagine. I got into drugs early on into my life. I became an addict into like a addictive personality by the time I was 8 years old. I got introduced to uh, marijuana and cigarettes and alcohol um, at such an early age. And I started to become what you call a hoodlum um, early on in my life. My Both my parents were very abusive, and the people who they got remarried to or were dating were also very toxic and negative and abusive. And I had to deal with a lot of alienation in my life. But, anyways, leading up to um, my near death experience, fast forward into my teens, living this way, not having any direction, any goals, any purpose in life, I I quickly faced consequences and by my circumstances. I would get fired from jobs. I would get into bad relationships. A lot of patterns occurred in my life that I did not know how to listen to, and I did not know how to differentiate uh, the meaning behind it. As I got older, I I would not know how to interpret the whispers. I would have whispers come to me, but I would dismiss them. I would easily uh, not take it into account. I would burn my bridges. I would go against my will. I would go against my intuition. I would fight it with my ego. I was not one to humble down and surrender or accept my life. I would always try to be combative, and I had a victim mindset. So by the time I was in my 20s, these patterns kept occurring, and I just never knew how to straighten out my life. Um, and by the time I was 23 years old, I attracted a scenario where I wanted to hang out with friends and party and drink and smoke and be on all sorts of drugs and meet different girls and hang out. And clearly, this is not the choice in life you should be making, especially when you have led up to this point in your life in this direction I was leading. It was it was like self-loathing, self-destruction, and no guidance, no wisdom, no teachings, no nothing. I ended up drinking a lot of alcohol and taking. I had a whole bag of mushrooms. I don't know how much was in there, maybe 10 to 20 grams of mushrooms that I was munching on like it was a snack. So every time I would just pinch with my thumb and two fingers and pinch it into my mouth and just chew and suck and just take in all that toxic mushrooms that I was doing the wrong way. And I smoked marijuana, and I was also given cocaine as well. So I ended up saying to the people over there was, friends and, people showing up, and it wasn't my atmosphere. I wanted more. I had an addictive personality. So I'm like, this is not good enough. I want more. I want more, right? I was also addicted to drugs like for a very long time. I was, a crack fiend for a good like year and a half, 2 years when I was 14 years old. So, I just got into this highly addictive personality traits early on, even with women and, seeking love and, bondages and connections. I was always chasing people, not realizing that they weren't even my family and friends. I was just chasing something. And so none of this would kick in at the moment when I was on the drugs and alcohol and cocaine because the cocaine kind of balanced out the alcohol and weed and marijuana. So that mellowed me out. It balanced it out. So I didn't feel much. I felt okay. And then the mushrooms just kept me wanting more. It kept me alive. It kept me, like spaced out. And the, so anyways, I said I want to leave. I want to drive. I want to get in the car, and I want to go meet more girls or more friends. Or I didn't know what I really wanted. I don't know what I was looking for. I don't think I would have felt appeased even if I did get more. Um, so I get into the car and I'm driving, and I'm feeling whispers, and I'm feeling this pull to a destination that I didn't even know. I was feeling lost. I was feeling misled, and I seen all these lights, and it didn't come to me how fast I was driving. It was like 2 in the morning. So, and I'm like flooring it, pedal to the metal, flooring it everywhere I'm going and going off curbs. And I don't know what was going on with me at the moment. And I'm just taking a straightaway, and I eventually realized, okay, I don't know where this person lives. I'm lost. Where am I leading myself to? And I see all these flashing lights just going past me, and I'm going into a daze, and I feel this high, this hallucinogenic like type of feeling, and I'm feeling, um, you know, just I don't know what to call it, spaced out and high and no care for purpose and life and general, and nothing to calm me down and say, you shouldn't be doing this. And I would just go faster. And And this is why I say that sometimes our spirits are, we've tainted ourselves so much that it could lead us to an inevitable death. So I'm just going faster and faster and just wondering what's going to happen next. I didn't have a direction. And I sideswiped two vehicles and just smashed my head into the windshield. And I kind of daze off and come back into consciousness. And I hit harder on the gas. And I go up someone's lawn and I hit a house going 100 kilometers an hour. So when they did the investigation, they declared that I was going 100 kilometers an hour and I ejected out of my vehicle head first. And as soon as I did, what I felt was stillness, silence, and I was able to see my body right away. And at first, I felt stuck. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I could not move for the life of me. And this is what I want to portray is just kind of giving in, giving up, surrendering, kind of obeying, and just repenting. And I just let go. And I think as soon as I did that, my spirit left my body and I was able to kind of see the accident. But at that time, so this is after years of articulating and understanding it better. But at that moment, I couldn't have described it this way. I kind of went with, okay, the ambulance came, people must have came out of the house, investigation went on, but this is truly what really it felt like, that my spirit left my body at that moment, and I observed, and I was patiently waiting near my body, and I didn't know what to do. I was kind of not in tune with vision and insight and clairvoyance at that time. When my spirit first left my body, I was just kind of engaged and quiet, timid. And when I say I, it was my spirit. So again, my spirit was just waiting there. And eventually I hear the homeowners come out of their house. And at this time, like I said, I wasn't seeing visions, or I wasn't like that spirit, that was able to intuitively do things right at that second. But I did know that I was engaging in sounds and some sort of knowing. So the homeowners came out of the house and they didn't know what to do. They were like, oh my gosh, like, because they thought a bomb went off when I hit the I think it was the son's bedroom. Later I found out in a testimony, like on the newspaper, that it was the son's bedroom. He heard a large bang. They came out of the house. The mom came out. I guess they called the police and they didn't know what to do. And at first I thought it was them that pulled my body, because when the police officers and the investigation took place, my body was actually located on the passenger side of the hood. So I was not on the driver's side. So what I want to try to describe here, and I'll come back to it when I describe other periods of me being out of my body. I needed, I felt probably like stuck. I felt stuck. I felt I was trapped. Maybe my legs were trapped because my car was an SUV and it squished in, and my tibia broke, fractured from the steering wheel, and I was stuck in between my head and my chest, and my body was out of the vehicle, and my leg was still probably inside of the vehicle. And I felt my spirit coming back into my body and basically getting the strength to crawl out of the car, okay? Because my body was found on the passenger side of the vehicle, and it was stated in the newspaper, not stated that, the investigation came, the police pulled me out, because they could have used that against me in the court of law, that that he was found in the driver's side. So nobody knew how my body was found on the passenger side. And I'll come to why I say that later. So the ambulance comes, and I all I hear is, oh my gosh, like I can hear thoughts right away. I can hear in and tune into thoughts and feelings, and I was like curious, right away. I was like really engaged in that, and so I'm tuning into the uh, the emergency workers, and they try to resuscitate me. They pull me onto the gurney. They take me into the ambulance, and they're trying to give me oxygen, and they're just saying he's losing too much blood. He's losing blood. We're losing him, his oxygen, and they're just saying all the things that you normally hear when you find somebody in a wreck like that. And they take me, and I can feel myself uh, hovering or close to my body, but in the ambulance. And I slowly disengage and I surrender. And every time I'm kind of like in and out of my body, literally able to get out of the ambulance and be close to my body and watch the ambulance drive and look at the highway and come back in and look at them trying to revive me. So I'm already out of my body, and I'm following my body to the hospital. Right when I get to the hospital, they're pulling and rushing me into a room, the ICU, and I can see that at first I'm being rushed. I'm being rushed there, but I can see everything. I'm witnessing myself being taken everywhere, in and out of surgery, and seeing specialists and doctors and nurses coming in to see me. And again, I can hear whispers, and I can hear people's thoughts, nurses and doctors and specialists saying, my God, like, look at him. And even people just gazing at me, I can feel what they must be thinking. And just looking at how puffy and swollen up my face and my neck, and all the blood, and I had shards of glass sticking out of my forehead and my face, the back of my neck, my chest, my shoulders, everything was mangled. I had 75% of nerve damage. I had a paralysis over 75% of my body. I had bleeding in my brain. I had brain damage. I was diagnosed with short-term memory loss. I had blood clots. You just name it. I had all of the things, and I had trauma to my brain. I had buildup of blood accumulating in my brain that they didn't know about until after. And I'll get to that also, where I had to make a second near death decision of going back into a life or death surgery after a couple weeks of them finding out I have severe bleeding in my brain, and it's not being absorbed by my brain. So as I'm getting in and out of surgeries, one by one, family is appearing and showing up. And that's when I can start to engage with that and start to notice that, okay, if I tune into phone calls now, I can hear phone calls. And I'm like hearing, now my mom's on a phone call and whispers, but I'm not near her. So I'm like noticing these things, but I didn't know how to do it at a whim's notice, like when I wanted to leave my body. It was just happening. I was noticing it when my spirit would show up for my body for surgeries. So I started to acknowledge that, why is my spirit always aware and leaving and showing up and around me when I'm going in for surgeries? So that's then I started to put two and two together. I know this sounds kind of crazy and far fetched, but I was able to do it, and I prove it, and I've proved it, and doctors have taken down testimonies and stuff of it too. About there was one point where I couldn't breathe, and although I was on life support and I had the breathing tube in and they're pumping me air, I my spirit knew my body was gonna shut down and die. So there was an intuitiveness started to kick in where I felt, okay, I couldn't breathe and I was gonna die, like really like die. My spirit needed my body to be in a good enough shape if I had to come back into my body and survive. So there was a point where I was so dehydrated, and my mouth and everything, I was drained of water. I had no fluids in me. I had nothing. They weren't giving me nothing. They didn't know nothing. They didn't know if I was paralyzed. They didn't know that I couldn't talk. They didn't know that I couldn't walk. They just knew I had lost a lot of blood. They knew that my leg broke. They did those two surgeries. They took out all the glass. Well, what they thought they did. I had glass and shards coming out of me years later as well. And then so I ended up going back into my body, back into my body, and this is while the curtain was closed because we couldn't have any visitors. They were just crying and in shock. Whenever my mom would take a sneak peek and see me, I could just hear everybody crying and quivering and hoping and praying and wishing and sending thoughts all the way across the world and calling their country. My family's from Fiji, and calling Australia, New Zealand, people who couldn't show up, and then calling aunts and uncles, people to come or who couldn't come, just giving them the warnings and telling them what's going on. And some people showed up from Vancouver to Calgary, because it happened in Calgary, Alberta, and Vancouver, British Columbia. People, cousins and aunts and uncles had to come down and visit and see me. So I was there for on life support for 3 days. It gave a lot of people to show up, and there was a period, like I'm saying, is I had this intuitiveness where I can connect. You know how we have synchronicities and we can send signals to people? For some odd reason, I did it to my mom, and she felt an intuition to me sending it to her that I needed ice chips, water. For some reason, I sent her a signal, and my spirit came into my body and I touched my lip. But when I woke up off life support, I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I couldn't lift up my own arms. So my left arm was working. My right side of my entire right hemisphere was like had 75% of nerve damage. So I had to use my left hand to lift up my right side, and it would fall back down. So, but I was able to enter my body to touch my lip and tell my mom I needed ice chips. So she told the nurse and doctor, I don't care, that's my son. He needs water. He needs, and they said, I don't know, ma'am. Like, she was panicking and saying like, I don't care, I'm going to give it to him. And the nurse are saying, no, you shouldn't. You're not allowed to. The doctor's going to get upset. And she just gave it to me anyways. And the nurse just kind of agreed and said, like, agreed to disagree, but just kind of said, okay, go ahead, just give him a little bit. And oh my gosh, I tell you how badly my body needed that. So my mom gave that to me. The nurses says, sorry, ma'am, we have to have you leave here. You can't, like, we're waiting for specialists. Like, like, I'm on life support. They don't know what's going on with me, right? They can't just have me on display for everybody, right? So I my spirit comes again back into my body, and I felt my neck closed in on the tube that was in my neck, in my throat, choking me. Like I could not breathe. Like the air was not flowing properly to me and that I would die. So my spirit knew this and gave me the power to unharness my neck brace and leave my body. And I tell you, when my mom came and took a peek on me, she started screaming and yelling for nurses and specialists and doctors, saying, "Oh my God, what's happened? I didn't do that. I swear I didn't touch him." And the nurses were shocked, but they said that that's a sign, right? That must be a sign that I must be waking up or something might be happening, right? So, my my mom's just crying and telling everybody and saying, and the nurses and the doctors have to have a talk and a meeting with the family and say, hey, okay, maybe you guys need to come to a decision and unplug this guy, right? You guys have to finally decide, because maybe that's a sign, right? This might be an opportunity to do that. So they were shocked. They didn't know. I was just swollen and I had lost a lot of blood, and they didn't know what was going on. But they saw that huge sign. Okay, so I ended up hearing all this and knowing what was going on, and it gave me time to just kind of reflect, and I really didn't know what to do. So I started to float around and I started to visit places. I started to go through the hospital and see who else is here. And just kind of, I felt free. I felt out of my body. I felt like detached and like not attached to anything. And I felt like I was able to just wander around gracefully. And I just could peep into different rooms and see people eating food. And I'm talking about my family and stuff. And I was able to go by the front desk and watch them talk and huddle up. And I was able to go to other people on their phone calls and listen to them talk. And I was like, if I can do this, what else can I do? And so my mom's talking to my uncle from Vancouver, but when she calls him, I can hear what she's gonna say, and with her, while I can hear her thoughts before she says them, while the phone was ringing. And when he answered the phone, she said it, but I was able to chime in and go into that frequency and show up to him receiving that signal, and then and acknowledging and hearing his thoughts and what he was saying and how he interacted with his family. And I was able to be there simultaneously, like at the same time, and and go back to my mom, back and forth with those frequencies and signals and thoughts and feelings and emotions. And so he ends up turning around and kind of putting the car in gear and saying, Malcolm was in a car accident. We have to, we can't go on our trip. I think they were going to California. And my cousins, we worked very close, but we kind of lost our closeness over a few years of not being around and kind of a lot of things going on. So they're like, oh, what, right? Kind of like disappointed, but because we weren't close, but I don't know what it was. And I don't hold any resentment or blame anymore. So I don't hold anyone's hate in my heart anymore. So I don't look at it, frown upon anybody like that anymore. But anyways, so they had that feeling about me at that time. And I noticed that, and they ended up going home, but my uncle was the only one to show up at the hospital. So he comes straight to the hospital, and and in time, or whatever. So as this kind of stuff is going on, my mom finally decides. So in that time, and it was fast, I guess, right? Like, you don't know what time and space really is. It's all at the same time, I guess. And it, my mom decides at that time I'm interacting and doing everything I did, and she comes and she's very slow and precautious. Like, she's very hesitant, and she's doubting and wondering, and she's going through her own mixed feelings and emotions. Like, she had a scarcity mindset, and this really had to probably jumpstart her spirituality, I guess, and religious beliefs or whatever. But she started to, I can feel her wanting to believe and trust. I could feel it. And so she, although she wanted to doubt and be in fear and disbelief and all the things that we feel in this physical realm, she felt, and people feel. So she ends up grabbing the plug. It's a plug, a big plug, and she is told, okay, yeah, any moment you could pull it out. And she takes a deep breath and kind of pulls. And right when that happens, I literally left my body, and it was a different type of an awareness. This decision was like I was indecision. I didn't know it was I was involuntary. Like, I did not have a choice. This was not my intuition doing this. This was like a higher command, a higher demand from source, calling me back. And I gravitated towards it, this decision. I ended up.
Sorry,
So yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, please cut me off.
When they pulled the plug, so to speak,
Yep.
did your body die then, or did it was able to support itself and continue living? I'm
That
just
is
wondering,
something I don't know. I still wished till this day that I could go get all my records of all my x-rays and the proof and all the pictures and everything, but I got it through word of mouth and from the nurses at the facility called the Rehabilitation Center. It's called Care West. But I don't think I died, because I'll come back to the instance of how fast it was. By the time she unplugged me, I was able to make this higher calling, this decision that I'm going to describe here in a moment, but it happened at the same time of me being unplugged within 15 to 20 minutes. So if you have any more questions or contradictions or curiosities, please feel free to jump in and figure them out. I don't mind.
okay, it's just amazing to listen to hear this story. It's fantastic.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm trying to give you the best, because I've had a lot more to say that I wasn't able to say on other podcasts and interviews that I've been invited on. I kind of stuck to a narrative where people's minds would stick to, and this one I just wanted to go all out and talk about a little bit more. Okay,
Yeah,
so
this is
yeah, what was that?
That's great. Yeah, it's a thing I try and do on the podcast. Is I don't like to interrupt, and there have been sometimes I listen to podcasts and I'm thinking to myself, oh, no, why won't the host just shut up and let them talk?
But and then they do that, but then there's a lot of questions that come up after. It's like, oh, I wish he said this, and I get so many hundreds of comments saying, what about this, did you do this, and did this happen? And then even the interviewers probably wishes they should have asked this, and I get invited on another podcast where they ask me questions that they wanted to know. So, opportunities always arise afterwards. So if you want to ask me more, feel free to jump in.
Right. Okay. Well,
Okay.
if you continue with the story,
Yes.
tell us what happened, and then I'll ask some more questions towards the end. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all. So, um I felt this gravitational pull, like I was not in control. I just kind of realized that I was surrendering, and I'll come to it after. And these are my part of my day to day life. My lifestyle now is these practices that I talk about. Every word that I'm using are things that I actually do now and for my practice and things. So I ended up surrendering, and at that time I didn't realize what this practice was, but I was surrendering. I was humbling down. I was just kind of um, obeying and not allowing my ego to come in the way. Because my ego spirit, my ego mind was the one who led me to the inevitable death. So I'm like, if I just get out of this and come back to my body, then that means maybe I wouldn't have had the capacity to survive. Because when I did come back to my body, I was paralyzed on half of my, more than half, 75% of nerve damage. And I'll explain to you how I healed and self healed, which I wasn't able to describe properly on other interviews. Um, so I ended up just being at ease and peace, and just allowing source to take me. And I'm trying to think of the word. It's not repent. It's not, it's, it'll come to me. It's coming to me. But as I'm leaving, I'm literally able to leave as I did before, through telephone wire, through the walls. So I left the hospital. My spirit floated out of the hospital through the walls of each floor, and I'm seeing myself leave, and I'm seeing the building, and I'm watching me go, and I just start to notice that I am detached. I'm completely away from this physical realm, this earth, this body, this mindset, this what we think are these thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and all the child's play and all the Tom, Dick, and Harry people that weighed me down, and all the stress and emotions and the pain and suffering. I was like, not that. And I start to realize, who am I? What am I? And I was that. And I'm going and going and going. And I really didn't know where I was going, but I just kept going up. I just kept going up. And it was just happening naturally. And I'm seeing like this sky now, and I'm seeing like a bird's eye view of how far I'm going, the distance I'm going. And no, I'm not going to get into was the earth flat or round or none of that, because um, I saw a view of the plane. That's what I saw, right? I saw that, and I kept going up, and I show up to atmosphere, and I get towards higher, like past different layers of our atmosphere, and I could see the clouds gone now and passing, and I'm going higher and higher, and I'm like, now what? And I'm trying to think of the decision that I had to make, but it was surely not to control. That's what it was. I had to be in, I had to release the self control that we all have. And that self control was something that I had to not be in control of. I had to be in the midst of the unknown, knowing that I was safe and gonna be okay. And that's what I really want to portray there. And that's when I entered like a vortex, a vortex, like a wormhole. It was like a portal. It was crazy, and it kind of sucked me in, and I started to see it and feel it, and it felt like what it feels like to go through a wormhole, but I not my body, like my spirit, and I'm just one with it. So it's like not harming me or anything. And I'm going through it, and I can see and feel the energy, and I can see the patterns, and I can see the frequencies, and I can the thoughts and lights and the patterns and the not wind, but I could see the suction. I don't know the best word to call it, but I was being pulled up. I was sucked up there like very fast, and I don't know how long approximately it took. I can't give you a number. All I know is it felt like I was time traveling, and when I show up and I go further up, the lights and the brightness and the colors and the different dimensions and the I don't want to be lame and say, oh, galaxies and stars and all that, but I just, my awareness knew that that's just what it was, right? I just know, right? And I ended up seeing black now, like black. Where I was leaving was all black. And I start to get, I'm not gonna like kid you here, but I was getting nervous. I was in the unknown. I was a little bit nervous, a little bit scared, and a little getting worried. And then I started to wonder if there's ever gonna be any light. Um, and There was a phase. I don't know how long that phase was. Remember, when there's no, it's irrelevant. Time and space can be infinite, right? So you could be going through so much time and space, but in the different, this world that people say 3D and 4D and all that, and in the earth, on earth, it could be a different time, right? Which I'll come back to the moment my mom unplugged me. But I ended up just kind of being in this unawareness. And I had to decide that it was inevitable death. And I just surrendered. And I just gave in, I guess, completely gave in. And that's when this white light appeared. And this white light is not like how I just said it. It's not like a white light. It's like a supernova, great expansion. It's a source light, and it's an awareness. It's full of harmony. These emotions that I'll describe are so touching, and as a spirit, I couldn't cry or anything, but I'm sure as a physical body, I went through all the emotions and stuff through the whole transition since 2010, when this near-death experience happened back in 2010. But I ended up coming forth to a white embrace, and I am in between darkness and lightness, brightness, and I had to make a decision. Obviously, easy enough to step into the light, right? So I paused right at the brim of the light, and I couldn't really see in until I heard a voice saying, or I didn't. It wasn't like hearing. It was more like an emotion. It was more of a telepathic, clairvoyant intuition signal, like a sense, and it was sensing to me, and I felt the other emotions, like I'm here. It was all within, like I'm here, like you're here, I'm here. You made it, I made it. You showed up, you came. Welcome, and what do you want to do now? And that's when I started to kind of see more. And when I started to see in more, I seen all these divine beings, angels, or whatever we want to call it, sources, kind of repenting and having this embrace this harmonious journey that they've gone through, but they're also like disciples of Source. They're kind of like present and awe beings, and just kind of this safe haven of love and harmony and appreciation and respect and compassion. And I can feel that feeling up there. And I see over to this large source, like 25, I don't know, I say 25 like I know what 25 times bigger really is, but I'm saying massive source energy, white, the same, like a different type of a white. Everything was white up there, but kind of lift itself. And it sounds weird, but what I do want to say is, from the years of experience coming back to life and making the decision to come back, or being allowed to come back, I have had several life reviews of perspectives and journeys, and what it's like for everyone's perspective, right? So for what each perspective deserves and needs and recalls from their subconscious or their higher self, or what's relatable, is most likely what they will relate with and see, right? So I saw this and asked it at, and he asked me, I felt like this welcome, this presence of love, and I'm forgiven. I didn't even have to ask or say, I'm sorry, like, please, oh my God, I had such a bad life, and, oh my gosh, and I'm being given so much love here. What the heck? I'm so sorry. And it was nothing. It's like I knew, but I wasn't egotistical. Like, yeah, I'm loved now, and like I'm being provided love, and woohoo, and I could just be dismissed, and I could dismiss all my wrongs I've done. It was not like that. It was like it was still like I wasn't being judged, but it was still like a judgment. But I was not being judged. I was welcomed with love and compassion and respect, and I was welcomed like home. But I feel that it was me, because I looked at my life review in a flash, in an instant. It wasn't me being out of my body anymore and being able to travel and here and there. I was able to just see the timeline of that life review that I lived. And I was able to see the emotions and hear how their hearts were, and all the people I've ever encountered. and all the people who have helped me and I've let down and I used and I've abused and I've wrecked and I've turned an eye to and I've just brushed under the carpet, and everything and in my life and family, friends and acquaintances that have brushed things under the carpet, and all the emotions that I wanted to resurface. And I'm telling you, just everything beyond what I'm saying. I seen it all, and I just could not accept that. And it wasn't egotistical, it was almost shame. I felt guilt and shame, like, why couldn't I make a better decision? Why couldn't I say I'm sorry to a woman? Why couldn't I say I'm sorry to a father or a brother or a man? How come I didn't know how to build a relationship with a man or a woman, or how to be like a child or be childlike or love a child or know how to raise a kid or know how to be respectful to an employer? What, like, I was ashamed of myself. My spirit looked at that and said, what, how, like, it was, I was scratching my, like, I'm scratching my head right now. But and I just said to source that, I want to go back. But no, people in their right mind would feel like, why would you go back to a crippled body? Which I really didn't know the severity of my body and my mind and the emotions I was going to come back to. I lived with resentment my whole life. I didn't have any love, any emotion. I didn't have no relationships. My parents divorced when I was 1 year old. I was full of destruction and envy and pain and suffering, and I was full of negativity. I didn't know any respect and love and harmony. I didn't know personal development. I didn't know nothing. I didn't have wisdom and guidance. All I knew was burning bridges and just being full of rage and destruction. So my spirit was the one saying, I want to go back. Not the body, not the physical mind. It was the spirit. And Source asked me, are you sure? And I had to think about it. I said, yeah, I'm sure. And I saw my angels, and I saw I saw the divineness, and they just had their head bowed, and I felt a compassion and agreeance, and then Source allowing me and welcoming me. And that's when I kind of fell back into this darkness. And I ended up kind of going backwards, which I call now manifesting backwards. But I don't want to get too much into the modalities and things to help people. But I ended up falling backwards and going back into what I didn't know what it was going to be and how complicated it was going to be. So sorry, it's just a little
Okay.
bit emotional. But so I go down, and then I I come back into my body after a long journey, and then I go back into my body, and my sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. I can edit this out.
Yeah, that's okay. No worries. Uh, you could leave it in. It doesn't matter. I ended up. I ended up waking up about 10 to 15 minutes later, um, when everybody was settled down and kind of waiting for me to wake up, because they had my heartbeat going, they had my blood flowing, they had my oxygen regulated, and my mom and my sister were in the room, and everyone else was outside, and they were allowed to sit there, and they were waiting for me. And you know what I did when I opened my eyes? I wasn't love anymore. I wasn't I wasn't compassion.
Did it feel really heavy coming back into this body
Yeah,
that
sorry.
was
Hold on.
probably damaged?
Yeah. So I wasn't love. I wasn't compassion. I kind of forgot. I forgot everything. And I forgot where I came from for a moment. For a long moment. Had to go by for me to remember where I came from. I open my eyes and I feel the pain and I feel the frustration and the density and the intense weight of my body and my brain and my mind and my thoughts and emotions. And I can also feel everything at the same time. It's like now I felt I am not in control, but I knew I wasn't in the game anymore. I was playing the game. And I'll get to that in a moment. Um, where you know how you feel like my whole life I felt like I was a non-player character. And even when I woke up from my life support, when I came back to life, I ended up living that way for a little period of time, going through the realizations and the relearnings and the unlearnings of everything to be able to change and recharacterize and identify what I truly need to become and go through everything. But I look at my mom and my sister and I look down at my leg and I could just feel the resentment that I felt towards at that time, that I blamed life. I blamed so I wasn't changed. I had to go through everything again. I had to redo my life again. So I had a second chance to do it again. And I had to learn after how to relive it, but I felt the thoughts and feelings more. I can know what my sister's thinking of me before she says it. I could think what my mom's thinking before she thinks it. And they were feeling like, wow, okay, he woke up and, what's going to happen now? My mom had great gratitude and stuff, but I look at her and I'm in disgust. Can you imagine? I'm in disgust. I look at my leg, I'm like, what the fuck? What? My fucking leg is broken, it's swollen. What the hell? And I'm talking like this. I'm like, fuck, like, what are we gonna do? Like, what's this about now, right? I just was not grateful. I was I was tormented. Everything was me, me, me. Everything happening to me. Everything's happening to me. Not for me, but to me. And my mom's like, shouldn't you be grateful? You're alive. And she just felt the burdens that I've given her whole life, my whole life to her, and how disgusting I've been as a child and an adult and whatever I was. And it all came pouring back into everyone's life like, oh, the old Malcolm is back. Like it was hard for them too to see with love and grace and appreciation, which I understand. It's a two-way street, right? And anyways, so I look at my leg and they start telling me, the nurses, doctors, specialists come in, you're lucky to be alive. And I'm like thinking, what's going on? Tell me more. They're telling me like, that you shouldn't be alive. That you went through a windshield. That people that have been hit a house and go through a car accident like this, like you don't survive. People that wake up like this, and that And then they had to take me to specialists, and they had to determine my paralysis, because I'm like, what's going on? And I lift up my right arm and it falls down. I said, I can't feel my arm. I can't feel nothing. Like, I don't feel nothing. And my mom's like, what do you mean you can't feel it? They're touching my leg, they're touching my toes, touching my hands. And I'm like, no, I don't feel that. And the right side of my tongue and my brain, my cheeks, everything's like numb. And I'm like, thinking, like, is this gonna be how I'm gonna be? Like, and they're saying, yeah, we don't know if you're gonna walk the same again. We don't know if you're gonna talk the same again, because I had a lisp after a while, like it was getting worse, and the bleeding in my brain kept accumulating, and at the same time, I'm going through police officers hunting me down, trying to condemn me, trying to judge me, the judge, the court system. I'm all over the news. I'm on the newspaper, drugs and alcohol, the perfect person to prosecute, right? And criminal record, 7 year, all this kind of stuff going on. And can you imagine, I had to transition my life, and I have a I have a baby. I have a little son, that I had when I was 17 years old. He comes and visits me, and his mom teaches him to tell me, you shouldn't be drinking and driving. You're lucky to be alive. And I'm like, oh man, I have to face this alienation again and go through court and go through the system, and I'm back in the matrix. But I'm like more super aware. I'm really aware, but I'm still not knowing how to love and go through the transitions of anger and pain and suffering. But I'm super alert and intuitive and aware. It's like I was out of the matrix. I was now playing the character. I was no longer the non-player character. I was like the player of this non-player character. I was the player. And that's basically how it began. That's how my journey began. And after that, it's been a journey to get to where I am today. And I'm talking a long journey, years of going through, going back to college. And I want to share like the healing, the self-healing, and being able to download things and upload things and information, and putting myself through college and passing with 100% mark, like A's, whatever you guys call A plus or 100%, being able to download information, not studying. I never studied my whole life. I'm a grade 6, grade 7 dropout, and being able to put myself through studies and get certificates and change my life and change the direction and manifest and attract. There's so many things, raising children's and quantifying my experiences in life, bringing the future self to the here and now. There's so many more areas to talk about. But when they said that I was never going to walk the same, talk the same, that my bones are broken, that, are you kidding me? Like, Malcolm, you're saying that you're going to heal your healing. I just did surgery on you. I'm the doctor, or I'm the police officer, or I'm the judge. I'm going to tell you about your life, not you. You just listen. You're the puppet. Your nerves are damaged, and they'll never work the same again. This may never heal. My nerves were intertwined. I was mangled. My body was twisted. And I was able to go into my body with my spirit the same way I was able to go into my body and unharness my neck brace, go in and out of my body to listen to thoughts and feelings and emotions, and I utilize that power within to go into my bone and heal my bone. What they said that would take years or months, I was able to do in weeks. With my nerve damage, I was able to untwine it when nerve specialists had to walk around with other specialists and doctors. There was about 9 specialists walking around with the main doctor, the main specialist, following me as a case study, learning about nerves, because he was putting in like 5-inch needles into my muscles to trigger different nerve points to stimulate and wonder what's going on. And they couldn't find out if I had C1, C4, T1, T2, L2, L. They didn't know nothing. Every time they were trying to diagnose me, they were misdiagnosing me. They were falsifying a lot of things. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And while they were going through their unknowingness, I was self-healing. And it was miraculous to them that my lungs healed within days. They had 6 weeks on the counter, like in the books. They said, okay, this is going to recover. We did the surgery. This is going to take like 6 weeks. They have a number for everything. Or my leg, they put the bolts and tools and stuff in my leg. They said that's going to take 6 months or 12 months. But I was able to fuse it back together and walk out of the hospital to a rehabilitation center called Care West in 6 days of getting off of life support. They wanted to transfer me, and I start to notice the fraudulence in life, that they don't care. They just need their beds to be filled. So they said, okay, you're trying to heal, you're walking now, then get out of here. Go to the rehab center now. You're good. And they got a bed for me there, and they're giving me more morphine, Percocet, oxycodone, and they're giving me T4s and everything to suppress the pain, and I'm realizing that this is what I was in. This is the system, but I was still angry, still frustrated, but I was calling people out on the truth, and I'm testing out the blood pressure when they test out they put the machine on you to test with my energy, and I'm like raising it up and raising it down and lowering it and raising it, and I'm able to play with energies, and I was able to do things. But maybe if you want to ask me specific things, I would be
Yeah.
able to share. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've got about 15 minutes left
Okay.
on this. And it's just so fascinating to hear you. Let's see if we could go back.
Yes.
You were in a point where you could hear phone conversations, and you kind of connected with your uncle and saw him turn around.
Yes.
And with these conversations, did you talk to your family and say, I saw you have that conversation, you said this
Yes.
and that?
Yes. So that's another things people wanted to know, is that that what made my story legitimate and real was that I told my mom what she was saying to my uncle, and she said, "What? How do you know that? How did you know that? Only I know that." Other people, like sisters and stepsisters, that were coming into my ear or into the room and saying things to me about their mom or their sisters or praying for me. I told them word for word their prayers and what they were saying to me, and they were stone cold shocked, and they didn't know what to say. They were just stunned. And when I told them, my sister, I told her what she was thinking, feeling, what they were going through. Even till today, I can feel and hear people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I still do it, but it was amazing how people didn't think it was natural, and that's what bugged me out, was the fact that they still were living their life, not trying to listen to the awareness and to see that these truths are possible. But yeah, so my uncle, he turned around. I was able to see all that, and I'm able to tell everybody things, but people don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes, and I know a lot of people want to just hear a love story, and I share such hard truth that sometimes, kind of people get pushed away by that, but I tell it like it is, and but that's just how it is, and yeah, so.
Yeah. So do you feel that perhaps there was spirits, some kind of spiritual beings looking down on you, and how are you living your life, and thought, you know what, we got to grab this guy, we got to have a word with him.
Yes. So they come, I call them every now and then when I need them for certain things, and I can call them into existence. For example, I would call them into certain healing times when I had to heal, when COVID came, and, to heal certain ailments and illnesses and sicknesses, and on other people too, and like body aches and pains and muscle damage and stuff. I was able to do that. I was also, you know, there's a strategy behind these things and how to do it. There's a process in the whole journey to go through to get to these points, but I am able to do that with what I do to help people achieve these levels of awareness and insights, so they can get these synchronicities and downloads and get these intuitive psyches, and they can get callings and insights as well. But yeah, to answer your question, yes.
And do you have plans to write a book about this and your process and how it all works?
Yeah, I do have a curriculum, I do have a process, and I do provide the coaching, mentoring, and leadership for that, therapy and healing, and meditations and healing. I do energy work and stuff for people. But the book, I've been putting bits and pieces down, trying to get it all out there. But my story is so massive that I would definitely need a writer to assist me in getting my story out there. So maybe a partnership would be in the air for somebody. Yeah, for sure.
So how would people find you? What's your website?
It's guidedintelligence.ca, www.guidedintelligence.ca. I'm all over social media, LinkedIn, business, different platforms underneath Malcolm Nair or Guided Intelligence. So I'm pretty easy to find on Google or wherever you look. And I do have a personal development children's book out called Arnav's Affirmations on Amazon, which is easy to find, and it's a great way to start for clients or people have purchased that as early as when you're born. Mothers, fathers, it's never too late to transform and rewire, reprogram the subconscious mind to have the subconscious serve your higher awareness. And as high as my clients go to 70 years old, all the way. So, you know, yeah, you can find me.
And can I just ask, after all that happened and you changed your life around, did your family, were they like amazed seeing the change in you?
I would hope to think so, but through the time frame of when I was transitioning and going through the ups and downs and trying to learn how to relive my life and learn how to forgive, I've had to take in courses, go to programs, I've had to go to seminars, I had to go to therapies and counseling and anger management and transitions over the beginning years of transitioning and learning how to become oneself. So I gradually have become a black sheep in the eyes of the matrix, or people. Sometimes we're not relatable anymore. Sometimes when you pull yourself on a different gravitational path and raise your vibration to a different level, it's just natural for people to fall off or not be in alignment. And there are ways to, connect and stay with people, but unfortunately, they were amazed, they're amazed, but they're just still living their life, and I can't. I can't zip my mouth just to live like that anymore. So I just kind of, we don't have much time to go through the descriptions of all that, but to tell you, there are people that are very amazed. I wouldn't say that my family is probably one of them. Yeah, if anybody does want to learn how to go through the pain and suffering and how to transition out of it, I am definitely here to show them the way.
this thing, the way you were living your life up to the accident compared to how you're living it now is such a change.
Yeah,
And this what we see, isn't it, from some people who have near death experience. It's undeniable. It's such a huge change. It's a spiritually transformative experience. And
right.
this is one of the great indicators of the reality of the experience.
Absolutely. There's so much more, realities that I didn't know about. The food industry, we didn't get into talking about health. There's a transition for every area of your life.
And I'm writing this book about near-death experiences, and I wanted to include your story,
Beautiful.
if that's okay, is that?
I would love that and appreciate that. If you can do that, that would be an honor. To be unique and different, Simon, is what's gonna touch people's hearts and expand their minds. Being that unicorn. Being different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you. It's kind of you to give me so much of your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you again, Simon. I'll hear from you soon and stay in touch. Thank you so much and have a wonderful session.
Thanks a lot.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye now.